Welcome to the Organizedpreneur Podcast, the ultimate podcast for female entrepreneurs looking to supercharge their business. I'm Eldrima Harper, host of the Organizedpreneur Podcast. I'm also a business organizing strategist and coach, where I specialize in helping solopreneurs, freelance professionals, and service-based providers. This is to ignite, build, and transform your business dreams into reality. If you're feeling overwhelmed, struggling to manage clients and tasks, and worried about things slipping through the cracks, you're in the right place. With my signature framework, not only are you able to get your time back and get on track, but also turn your passion and hard work into a sustainable and profitable venture. In fact, my most recent client launched a six-figure business in less than a year. And that's because I bring clarity, focus, and a proven roadmap to help you unlock your true potential. And this starts with the 3 pillars of efficiency. Number 1, organize your mental, physical, and digital space for success. Number 2, optimize your time for clarity and effectiveness. And then number 3, systemize your operations for sustainability. With those 3 pillars, you can now monetize and turn your passion and hard work into a sustainable and profitable venture. All right, welcome to the Organizedpreneur Podcast, the ultimate podcast for female entrepreneurs to supercharge their life and their business. I'm Eldrima Harper, business organizing strategist, coach, and host of the Organizedpreneur Show. I'm super excited to have my guest with me today because she's a fellow podcaster. I've been on her show and now she's going to be on my show. And so I am really, really excited about this. So Kim Martin Raymond is a fellow podcaster as well as, and the host of the How Now podcast. Welcome, Kim. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. I am so glad to be here. Like you said, I was so excited to have you as a guest on my podcast, and I am super excited to be a guest here on yours. And so I am just like, yay! This has been some time coming, and so I'm excited to be here and excited to share.
It really has. So we met on LinkedIn.
Yes, we did.
We met on LinkedIn. You reached out, and so it took us a little while to to connect and get through some of the I don't know what you call it, like to introduce ourselves, the formalities. That's the word. Thank you. Couldn't think of the word.
Don't worry, it happens all the time.
Yeah,
for me.
Trust me, right. So finally we get to do this. I love podcasting. I love talking and chatting with my friends. This, I guess one of the ways I think about it is that it's just a way to get on, like some people like to get on the phone and talk.
Right.
It's a way to talk with purpose.
Absolutely. You're right. Because, as a trainer, by profession, that's how we connect with our audience. We're in front of people, we're talking, we're getting their energy and their vibe. And I mean, I believe that podcasting does the same thing. We're getting that energy and we're getting that vibe and, in a different way. And I think when the pandemic hit, it became even more prevalent because, we were in front of audiences, or I was in front of audiences as a trainer, and interacting with the participants. And then all of a sudden I was behind a screen that was an inanimate object. And I was like, I'm talking to a computer screen. Where are my people? Where is my energy? And that was just like, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So, when people were talking about, I was like, podcasting, people listen to it.
Yeah.
But it's funny how the dynamics of podcasting are changing, where now, we're able to do it in a Zoom platform. We're able to connect with people again because I had so many folks that said to me, "Hey Kim, oh, you have a podcast? Okay, well, where can I watch it?" I'm like, "It's a podcast. You listen to it."
Yeah.
And they're like, "But where can we see it?" And I was
Yeah.
like, Okay, now I've worked in education and I've worked in special education, and I said, okay, well, I know that I understand that people learn differently, and so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, so what is this going to look like? And so it's
Yeah.
interesting to see how the dynamics have changed and how
Oh, I know. So
our
that,
podcasts are getting the face as opposed to just the listening ear.
yeah, yeah. So how long have you been podcasting? I know we talked about it, but for the sake of the audience, how long have you been podcasting?
I started my podcast in December of 2020. So I'm coming up on 3 years as a podcaster. So,
Wow.
I'm excited about that. Some years ago, I had a business partner and we used to do Blog Talk Radio, and we did that for a year. And then she had her wonderful son, and she was over 40, and she was like, I don't know if I can do this and take care of a second child. And so our stint with broadcasting ended a little prematurely there, but that was a wonderful experience. That is a time in my life that has always been exciting, and it kind of turned me on to that whole aspect of broadcasting in that way. And so I mean, I fell in love with it, as soon as they were like, 3, 2, 1, you were live, and whatever was going on, you were live. And so I learned some things from that, because I was like, okay, so what happens when the power goes out, or what happens if a guest doesn't show up? And we learned. You learn how to do things off the cuff. You learn how to do things in a pinch. You learn how to prepare. So yeah.
So would you say that your experience in broadcasting kind of that's where the podcasting bug kind of hit you?
Yeah, because like I said, it was a way of getting in contact with people. It was another platform, and I think that's what I was looking for. I was coaching and talking to people on an individual level, and and sharing, and people were just like, what, Kim, that's good stuff. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, well, what's another way in which I can do it? I had published some books. I'm an author. And so I have a series of books that I've written, and in total, I've published 6 books. Mm-hmm. And so, I said, I can get the word out that way, but what's another way that's more immediate, more tangible, of a way that I can get in contact with people? And that's where, I thought about podcasting. I was like, that's a way. And I'd listened to a couple of podcasts, and I said, maybe this is just a way in which I can, connect with people on a different platform. So that's
absolutely. So, I mean, I don't know if I even shared this when you and I had talked. I absolutely love podcasting, yes. And so, but I had started my podcast some years ago, probably like 10, maybe even 15 years ago, but I didn't even know what I was doing, right? But one of the reasons I actually started my podcast and I fell in love with it was because years before that, when I was like back in the 80s, I remember, and you probably remember too, when there were, and people still do this on radio broadcasting, where people will call in and request a song and things like that. So this particular time I had called in I was living in Arkansas at the time. And so there was a new radio station, and I called in, and I would call in like every week to start my week. There was this one song that I would always request. So the DJ he already knew what I was gonna, ask for. And so, and it was a song by the I remember the song. I just can't. The song is called Automatic, but I can't remember who sings. Yeah. So I would always request that song. But anyway, so he, after, I requested the song, he said, Aldrima, he said, have you ever considered getting into this industry of broadcasting? Right. He said, you have the voice. And when he told me that, I was like, well, no, I never really considered that, but thank you, for the compliment, things like that. But it stuck with me.
Yeah.
It stuck with me. And other people have told me that before.
Yes.
And so I'm, as I'm getting older, you kind of do like a what I call like an inventory of the things that you love, maybe the things that you're gifted at and things like that.
Right.
And so as I kind of, did that, I was like, I really do like this thing called podcasting. So I would try the different platforms. I tried Spreaker, SoundCloud, all of those. But I did it so that I could just kind of get used to, my voice and,
right.
Because sometimes we don't like to hear our voices, right? And so I did that, for a while. And plus I wanted to educate in the area of productivity, time management, and things like that. And I was like, man, this is a really cool way to, to get that out.
Right.
And so I've been doing it ever since. And like the first podcast attempt, I wasn't sure how to get it out to the masses, but I had clients and I would create courses and things like that. And then the second podcast, I did it with my business partner. We did like almost 400 episodes, and we ended it in I think it was last year, about a year ago. And then, excuse me. And then I was like, okay, I got to resume this podcast because this is something that I love doing. So I don't want to not, it's almost like you can't not do it.
Right. Right.
Right. So, and so that's been kind of my journey. And now I'm really discovering how it's people are using, podcasting as a way to not just get their voices out there, but there's so many different genres of podcasting, and I'm learning more and more and more. And so I'm just in love with podcasting. So
just like you said, it's something that when I think back, I had those same thing. I mean, I was told the same thing. You have a wonderful voice. Your voice is soothing. I heard I'm a minister, and so we, at the church that I was attending at the time, I used to do meditation. They're just like, your voice is so soothing. We love your voice. I've heard that over the years. And then also, when I was writing my books, I have some friends who are visually impaired. And so there's a place in Atlanta called Glass, and it's part of the Atlanta public library system, where you go in and you can record your books. So I was able to record my books, and they put it in the Library of Congress, and people who are hearing impaired can access your books. So they asked me to read my books because they wanted to support me. And so I was able to do that. And that was something that was wonderful. I was able to do that. I helped my dad to publish a book that he wrote, and I was able to record that as well. And so that was like my first time actually being in a sound booth and seeing what the process was. And I was just like, wow, this is kind of good. And so those are the things. And like I said, with the Blog Talk Radio, still, I mean, at this point, I still, just to be transparent, still don't know what I'm doing. but trying to figure it out along the way and figure out, okay, and how do I edit and how do I do these things? And I'm learning, and it's a slow process because, like you said, there are so many different platforms and so many different ways that you can go. And it was just a matter of, okay, what's going to work best for me. But I think that the thing that prompted me even in doing this particular show and coming up with the name How Now, I've since trademarked it, and that was a process in and of itself. But I wanted to be able to, I say it's the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. And that is something that I trademarked. I believe this September will be 2 years since I trademarked this, September 13th. And so what happened was, when the pandemic hit, people were saying, Kim, what do we do now? We have to stay in our houses. I have to sit with myself. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with this. All these questions started coming up. And I came up with the name How Now because it was not what now. We know what happened. This pandemic happened and the whole world stopped and people were trying to figure out what to do. So I was like, it's not what now, it's how now. How do we navigate in this new space that we're in?
Yeah.
How do we cope? And in my acronym for cope is, create our peaceful existence. How do we cope? How do we manage what's happening? We know what now, but how now?
But how now?
And that title or that name, leads to so much, because it's not finite. It's saying we're going to figure out how, that there's going to be a solution, that there is hope.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where that title "How Now" came from, because it's not saying that is the end, or like I said, like it's something finite. It's saying, there's hope. We are going to figure out how to do this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And so to have a platform like this, it left the door open for me to bring people from all walks of life to talk about different aspects of how they're living in the now, and it can be something that is relevant to what's happening at this moment. At that time when I started my show, I had someone come on and talk about estate planning, because people were losing their lives to COVID. And people didn't know what to do, because they never had to deal with estate planning and talking about, what to do when they lost a loved one, especially in an untimely way. And so, things like that. We talked about real estate. What does the real estate market look like? We talked about people's mental health and what that looked like. And so there were so many different ways that I can go, and I didn't want to put myself in a box.
Right.
So I said, with How Now, I'm able to talk about all things that are relevant. And at the end of my shows, as you know, I tell people things that are happening right now. You're always welcome to come back on my show, because you never know what's going to happen 2 hours, 2 minutes, 2 weeks, 2 years from now. So there's something different happening. So it really left the door open. So I was strategic in coming up with the name that I knew would be something that, I can make pivots and changes based on going on right now. So.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I love how you were able to it's almost like you left things open to where you can evolve, as things, change, evolve and pivot and, and adjust and adapt, I mean, I absolutely love that.
Because that's the nature of our lives. There are always pivotal moments. I've had, 3 critical pivotal moments in my life that have caused me to make major adjustments. We talked about the passing of my daughter. My youngest daughter passed away 14 years ago. That was a huge pivot in my life, because my oldest daughter had graduated college and was moving back up to New York to support my parents as they were helping with my grandmothers who were ailing in health. And then I was divorcing for the 3rd time at that time. And so there was a lot going on and a lot of changes that took place in my life. And so I needed to stop for a minute and figure out, hey, what's going on with me? And so, I had to make some hard pivots there. And that's kind of where I took on the role of coaching, because I was that person everybody went to, and they were like, you're the person that we go to, and it's you that's happening to. We don't know what to do. And then my friend said, did you ever thought about coaching? I was like, girl, I'm not that. I knew nothing about coaching. I thought you were talking about sports coach. I was like, girl, did you see how big I am? I was like, no, man. I was like almost 300 pounds at the time. I was like, girl. And she was like, no, I'm not that kind of coaching. But, and so, like I said, that was a pivotal moment. That was pivotal moment number 1. That was, a huge turn, because I was just going on living my life. Mom, I was mom, wife, worker bee. I was just doing things, according to the roles that I played in my life. And now all of a sudden it was like those roles changed, and I had no idea who I was beyond those roles. And that's something that's important. Sometimes you get to that point, like, what am I doing and where am I going? At some point we have to land and look around and say, okay, so what's happening and where am I and who am I? We have those moments that come. And then my second moment was when I became a minister 5 years ago. And questioning, why do I believe what I do? And why because as a Gen X person, you went to church because Nana said go to church, so you just got up and you carried yourself to church. No question. You didn't question or ask. We're not like some millennials and Gen Z. Why and why do I have to do that? And what's the purpose of doing it? We didn't question. We didn't question authority. We just did what we were told. And so, that was the time I was going through my doctoral program at the time as well, and was like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And I got to the second chapter of my dissertation, and I left the program because my husband had some health issues and had some other things going on. And at that time, I also was going through my ministerial program, and so another huge change. But all of those, that was a time when I questioned, why do I believe what I believe? Why am I, why do I do the things that I do? Because as a researcher, when you're working on your doctorate, you have to prove, you have to defend, you have to be able to tell why it is that you believe something is the way that it is, and what do you want to do differently? So that changed my mindset.
Yeah.
About a lot of things. And then finally, the third thing that was pivotal was I lost 64 pounds.
Yeah.
It's the first time in my adult life that I was under 200 pounds. I had not been under 200 pounds since I was 17 years old. And so I had no point of reference. This is the smallest that I have ever been. Like I said, I went from a size 22 to a size 15, almost in a size 12 now. And I've never been in this body. And I always tell people, if I didn't look like my daddy with hair, I wouldn't recognize myself. I am my daddy with hair. I look just like my daddy with hair. So I mean, exactly. All right, they go, okay, yeah, there's John. I look in the mirror every morning. I'm like, hey, John, how you doing? So, my dad, I am my daddy's child. And so, to have your whole life uprooted, everything that you were, when you're accepting your body in this certain way, and now all of a sudden you're having to make changes or it looks different. It took me a long time to accept the full figured me. And then I got comfortable with her. And then all of a sudden she was gone. And then I didn't take into account that, my rotation on my clothes and everything was strong. I gave away 25 contractor bags full of clothing that no longer fit. And now I've got a mountain of new clothes, trying to figure out how to organize and get my life back in order. So things were looking good. I had my little closet for my fall clothes, and then I out for my winter clothes. And now I've just got a mountain of clothes everywhere. And so that disrupted, the organization in my life. All of these things caused things to go off kilter for a minute.
Yeah.
Now I have to try to reorganize and get things back in place. And that's where, like you said, the organization of your life, everything spirals out of control for a minute. And then you look around, it looks like a Tasmanian devil went through my house. And then I have to say, okay, now let me regroup.
Right.
It takes a minute. My job is a demanding job. I do a lot of traveling. So sometimes I can travel upwards of 4 or 5 times a month. And so, sometimes, I've got suitcases sitting because I'm going through different climates. And so it's like, okay, take the suitcase that has the stuff that's for cold weather. This one, I need to have a coat. I've had times where where it's been snowing, and then I've gone, it's been snowing and I've been in Chicago. And then that evening it's 94 degrees and I'm in Florida and I'm wearing flip-flops. So like, what's happening? Life got, it spirals for a minute.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to come back and there be some type of order.
Yeah.
Some type of something. And there have been some moments even of late that I'm just like, okay, I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, one of, because I know I can't remember if we even talked about this. I know we talked about time management. You are I mean, you are very, very focused on, being on time. And you are very adamant about that. So how do you manage? So you work full time.
Yes.
You're a minister, you're a podcaster, you're a coach, you travel, you're a wife. How do you manage all of those components of your life?
Yeah. Carefully. No.
I love that answer.
It starts with, first of all, being able to say no. And that's huge. Okay. Because, even in my weight loss journey, a plate that's overflowing is never anything good.
Yeah.
So, for a person like myself who has many moving parts that are going on, I have to be able to be strategic and how I'm going to make that work and how I'm not going to put myself in a place of overwhelm. Because it's never about being overwhelmed. And this is where organization comes in as well. Because first of all, I'll start out by saying, and this is something I promise you I'm going to get this copywritten or something. Or I'm going to get a t-shirt that says it, because I say, hi, I'm Kim and I'm memory resistant. I'm memory resistant. I don't remember nothing. Okay.
Wow.
I don't write it down in heaven. Okay. I have to write it down. So the first thing is being systematic about writing things down so that way I can see what it is that I need to do. Mm-hmm. That's important for me. I'm a visual learner in that. I'm a checklist person. I'm not as much of a type A personality as I used to be. Mm-hmm. But I have to have my checklist of things that I need to do so that I can prioritize. Yep. What is something that is urgent? And it's interesting because that's something that I learned even when I was starting my doctoral program. They would tell you about a book, and now, of course, for the life of me, I cannot remember the name of the book, but I'll get it to you so you can put it, when the show airs, that we can let people know about it. But there's a book that they always recommended, and it talked about how you categorize or color categorize your time. Yeah. And how, is this a time waster? Is this something that is critical? Is this something that can wait? And it kind of gave you some examples of some things that, like if you had to go shopping, is that something that's urgent? No, it may not be urgent. It's something that needs to be done because you need to bring things into your home. Do you have a doctor's appointment? Yes, it's important for you to take that doctor's appointment because you've scheduled that. They'll charge you if you're not there. So, I started, with a list first. I needed to know, okay, what is it that I need to do? Mm-hmm. And before I took on any project, or before I even took on doing any of the things that I'm doing, even with this podcast, I thought, do you have time to do this? Yeah. Is this something that you have time to do? Because there are things that we want to do, and sometimes you simply don't have the time. And when you try to squeeze things in, something falls through the cracks. Yeah. And for me, it's important not only to schedule that time, but to be able, if I'm going to do something, or if I'm going to add that to my list, I want to be able to do it with excellence. Absolutely. I want to be able to do it with integrity. Yeah. And that's where the whole issue of no comes up. Yeah. Because, sometimes I'll tell somebody, oh, well, Kim, can you do this? And I have to say no. Mm-hmm. And how I say it is, I say, you know what? I would love to do this, but I cannot give you my best. Right. If I say yes. Right. And if I do this for you, I want to do it with excellence and integrity. So if I can't do that, I'm sorry, I have to say no. Absolutely. And then some people are like, oh, wow, okay, I appreciate that, you said, I appreciate that, you said it that way. Mm-hmm. Because I have to let people know, I would love to do it. I would love to say yes to everything, because that's just our nature. Yeah. It's to nurture and to help and to support. But if I'm going to do a halfway job, or if I'm going to be late, or I'm going to be scrambling to do it, or I'm going to have an attitude the whole time that I'm doing it because I really didn't have time to do it, and I said, yes, I could, and when I couldn't, oh my gosh, I'm going to be feeling some kind of way. Yeah. And I don't want that to be how it's presented. Right. Because if I ask you to do something for me, I'm expecting you to do it with all excellence, and that you're vested in what it is that I've asked you to do. Absolutely. And I feel that same way. I want to be vested in what it is that you've asked me to do. And if I cannot do it, I won't do that. Yeah. Just like with people who ask to borrow money and things of that nature. If I don't have it, and no, I'm not going to take away from paying my bills to give you money, because clearly there's an issue there. Okay, exactly. With being able to manage money. So where do you all of a sudden have this overflow to be able to keep up with your things and pay me back? Right, so right. I don't have it. I'm sorry, I don't have it at this time. Yeah. So we learn, we should be learning from the past experiences that we've had. Yeah. And so it's important for me, like I said, first to write things down. Mm-hmm. To make sure that I don't take on more than I can handle. Right. Do not take on more. Do not even say yes unless you're sure that it's something that you can do. I stop and I think, okay, what is my day looking like? Right. Okay, no, I'm not going to be able to do that because I'm making sure that I schedule myself in too. Okay. That so if I'm getting my nails done. That part. Yeah. I'm not going to cancel my nail appointment because you need help at this moment. Right. Because sometimes somebody else's emergency is not mine.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel some kind of way about saying that.
Yeah.
Because people think that the things that they need are emergent, and they are for them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can drop everything that I'm doing, because the things that are going on in my life are important for me.
Absolutely.
And sometimes my mental health is important for me too. So in order to keep me from snapping, I may need to go ahead and sit down and to get my nails done. Or I may need to go and get that massage.
Yeah.
Okay, because I always joke around, and this is my little minister joke. I always say, Jesus be a fence, but don't make me jump the fence.
I never heard that one. That's good.
Don't make me jump the fence, because sometimes people will try you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're human. We're spiritual beings living this human experience, and so sometimes we're going to have, we're going to have human reactions.
Yeah.
Even though it's best for us to respond to things, there are going to be those times where we react.
Yeah.
And so I'm always making sure that I'm doing a good job of trying to self-regulate.
Yeah.
And so a part of me establishing things that are going on in my life, there are certain things that I do at certain times of the month or certain times of the day. And when I start talking about bringing other things into that, is it going to, take me off track with what I've already established?
Yeah.
You set the parameters for the things that you do, and then you add things in around those things,
Absolutely.
not to replace those things.
Right.
And that's sometimes, I won't do that today and do this. Don't get in the habit of doing that. Be in the habit of, okay, this is my set schedule for today. And if it's something that I can add into that, then I'll happily do that. But I'm not going to replace the things that I've set in place just for the sake of running out there, just so I can say yes and appease you.
Absolutely.
Because people, for every plan A that they have, there's a plan B.
There's a plan. Yes.
Yeah, they called you, but please don't let me be the last person that you call, because you might be in trouble.
Because you might need a backup plan.
You might need a backup plan, and you don't want to enable people. And sometimes we do that by always being that person that they feel that's going to say yes all the time.
Yeah.
Me, it's a roll of the dice. I may say yes one day, and the next day, and it may not. It's funny. I have a husband, and my husband says, "Hey, babe, I need a favor. Do you think you can help me?" Depends on what that favor is.
Yeah.
He said, "No, babe, your answer should be sure, honey." It depends. It depends, because if I already have something already set, or if I have a schedule or something like that, it may not be something that I can cancel.
Right, exactly.
So I'm going to say, with my husband, yes, if there's something I can do, sweetheart, it's going to be my pleasure to do that. Absolutely. But we have to be real careful about saying, sure, no problem, I can do that. What happens if it is a problem?
Right. Yeah.
Now you got to backpedal. Now you got to renege on what you say you were going to do.
Right. Or do it grudgingly.
That. So I'm careful about, I'm careful about that. When you talk about time management, I'm careful about that. I think about, if there's something that I have to, how long is it going to take me to get there?
Yeah.
And I think people don't do that too. They go and they schedule all these things, but you don't take into consideration that there may be a little bit of traffic. Right. Something might be going on that road, and you don't want to be sliding right into the next appointment. Right. Make sure that you give yourself wiggle room.
Yep. Absolutely.
One thing that doesn't change on my job is the hours that I have to be there. Some people work out hourly and they have different schedules and things like that, but they try to put out that schedule a week ahead of time, so what time you're supposed to be there. For me, I'm salaried. My time is static. Yeah, I know I have to be to work at 8:30, and I know that my day ends at 5:30. So I'm not going to put anything in between there, and I'm going to make sure I'm not sliding in the door at 8:29.
Right.
I'm giving myself time to transition. Yeah. Because you never know what's happening before you get to where you're going. Absolutely. That you need that time to make that transition and adjust and get your mind right for what you're walking into.
Yeah. And everything that you're talking about, I mean, it's so, of course, that resonates with me because as I teach on, time management and decluttering and staying organized and all that, some people, well, let me back up, because one of the things you were talking about the Eisenhower matrix with, urgent, not important, with that quadrant. That's what you were talking about. And so, and And so it's so important that people, because some people, you know, they create these to-do lists.
Yes.
And they got everything on this list with no prioritization. And what ends up happening is that they may check these things off, but did that move the needle in your business?
Right.
Did that get you closer to your goal? Did that, was that the most efficient way or efficient use of your time?
Right.
And so I'm a list person too. I mean, what I do is I start my, like on Sundays, as I'm planning my week, I do what I call my brain thought download.
Yes.
And anything that's in my head, I put it on paper, because what that does is that frees up the brain capacity, because it's not, these things aren't hanging around in your brain.
I call it a flush, because I do sometimes, it's important for me to remember passwords. It may not be as important for me to remember the person who bought me that water. Because after a while, honey, it's like, hey, sweetheart, thank you so much for that water. I appreciate it, dear.
Yeah.
I know she has a name, but right now I got too many other things floating around in there. Yeah. I got to put some things out. And, so what needs to stay up there and what needs to go?
Absolutely. And so that was, I was writing a couple of things down that, as you were, saying that, about the to-do list and things like that and how to prioritize. I love that. The biggest thing that I had to start doing, even though I was teaching, productivity and time management and, all of this, the one thing that I struggled with, well, there were actually two things. One thing that I struggled with being a people pleaser was saying no. When I started saying no, and there was one book, and you're probably I've heard of it too. It's called Boundaries by now I can't think of his name. What?
I'm not.
I can't think. If anyone is listening to this podcast, you look up Boundaries. It's a popular book. But anyway, setting those boundaries, and establishing good, healthy boundaries, like what you're talking about. I mean, it's so important, because sometimes, and even the way I grew up, thinking about yourself was called being selfish.
Right.
And so, as a caregiver, and I probably mentioned that, I don't know if I did on your podcast, but as a caregiver, that was one of the things that I struggled with, because I was a caregiver at an early age, like in junior high. And so I had to learn how to be fully present for those, critical times when, I need to do something, for my parents or something. And so anyway, but as I got older, I still had to learn how not to be a people pleaser.
Right.
And so, but once I did, it freed me up. I mean, it absolutely freed me up, because you can say no pleasantly, like you were saying, and I had to learn how to do it without feeling that shame or that guilt, in bringing that into it. So now, it's just like you. It's like, okay, no, I can't do that, or whatever it is. Sometimes it's sometimes if someone may ask me to do something, and I may have an appointment. This may be an appointment just for myself, just for me to have some quiet time.
Right.
That's important to me.
Yes.
So
we can't minimize the importance of ourselves, because we are people too.
Exactly. And so, yeah. And so scheduling that time in and making sure that that's, a part of your, your to-do list or whatever. Even if for me, it's not even on my to-do list. It's just a matter of, I know that I'm going to have to do that, so I don't even have to, some things you don't even have to put on your list sometimes. Right.
Right.
And so, because it's so much a part of your rhythm and how you you know, what makes you, what allows you to be fully present in at each time, you know, in your life, fully present for your husband, fully present for your job, fully present for your business, fully present for your podcast, whatever that is, you know. And so so I love that you are saying that. And so you went through, or you were in my group. I've since closed the group, but it's actually more of a pop-up group, the decluttering group, but because I don't do it monthly anymore. I'm doing it like quarterly.
Gotcha.
And so what are some of the things that, if you remember, what are some of the things that you got from coming through the decluttering challenge?
Well, just like you said, just for me, just stopping long enough to realize that, okay, I'm in a space, something needs to be done. Acknowledgement is a huge thing. Just being able to acknowledge that, okay, I can't function in this space, so I can't be as productive as I want to be. That was a big takeaway for me. I was like, yeah, I've got things all over the place. And I did notice that as I decluttered and got things organized, it also helped me psychologically.
Yeah.
Because the clutter was not just the physical clutter, it was the mental clutter too. I was like, I can't, you know, there's so much that happens psychologically when you can't find anything.
Yeah.
You know, if I go and I know, you know, because, you know, people say, well, you know, I have organized chaos. I know that things are in this particular, I know it was in this area. Or you go, I know it was right here. Then you start rifling through those things. You're trying to find it. And you're getting frustrated because you can't find what you're looking for. You know, and then it's like, you know, and so now I'm having all kinds of mental breakdowns.
Yeah.
And I can't focus, or I'm frustrated. And now I'm running behind because I can't find something because I have not taken the time to organize my space or my thoughts. You know, there have been times where I've, you know, typically what I do when I'm getting dressed, or, you know, in the morning, I usually set out my clothes the night before. Okay. Because, you know, when things were cluttered, I would say, I know I've got this blue sweater. Then I'm sitting there dumpster diving in the morning trying to find this blue sweater.
You say dumpster diving.
I did. That's in here somewhere. But I can't find it. But I know it's in here somewhere because I didn't have the time to organize it. And instead of me going, you know, doing my clothes the night before, like I typically do every now and then. Life. So, you know, I went to bed. I opted to go to bed and get that extra hour of sleep, and then to sit there and try to, you know, rifle those clothes. But now here it is. It's the morning of. I'm scrambling to try to find it. Now I'm running behind on my time. Now I've got to be rushing to get out the door on the time, you know, in a timely manner. And it just throws everything off. But it throws your creativity off as well. That's the thing. When you were talking about that, you're like, you need to organize, because once you organize, you're amazed how when that space is open and you're not thinking about, you know, oh my goodness, I need to get this in order. I need to get things going. When everything is already clear, now you can let those creative juices flow, because now you're looking around and all you're seeing is the beautiful trees outside. You're not seeing the mess that's in front of you. That's going to take away from your thoughts or your creativity. And that was a huge takeaway for me. I was like, I need to declutter, because when I declutter, I think clearer, because I'm decluttering my mind too. We just think about the physical. We think about that mental. And that was such a huge part of decluttering. You know? And one thing I want to say, even when you were talking, when we were talking about those checklists and things that we make, we also have to be careful that we don't become robotic in that too, because that's what was happening to me too. When you're when you're just existing and not living. Just because you're checking things off just to say that, oh, I checked that off on my list. Did you take time? Yes, you had to get to work. Did you just automatically get to work and don't even remember how you got there? Or did you stop and say, wow, you know, I noticed the seasons are changing. I noticed that the leaves were changing today. Did you even notice? Because sometimes we are just existing. Just check. You know, I brushed my teeth. Check. I ate breakfast. Check. Never stop to just say, but did you enjoy that breakfast? You ate, but do you remember what you ate? Was it good?
Yeah.
You know, did you need to put a little sugar in it? Did you need to put a little salt, some honey? Did you need to put something in there?
Yeah.
Everything then becomes just a matter of checking off that list. But what's even more important is, did we enjoy it? Do we remember even doing it?
Yeah.
Did we glean something from that experience?
Absolutely.
And that's why it's so much more than just the physical. It is the psychological.
Yeah.
It is the connection that we make as well.
Yeah.
So much of that is critical to all of that time management, to all of that thinking and figuring it out, but making sure that we're putting ourselves in there too.
Yeah.
And that we're unapologetic. I sleep real well. I tell my friends that all the time. I sleep real good.
Yeah.
I know 1,000 times, and I'm going to sleep real good that night.
Right.
I've made peace with myself. Yeah. I've made peace. And I know that I've done what I did. When I talk to my husband every day before I leave, I say, honey, have a productive day. Yeah. I love you. Have a productive day.
Yeah.
And that that productivity looks different every day.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's where that whole idea of gratefulness.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that I was able to get up. And even if it was one thing that I got done, I'm not so tethered to that checklist that if there's something that I didn't have an opportunity to do, I don't feel as though I failed.
Right. I love, oh my goodness. I love everything that you are saying. I mean, because, as you're talking about the physical and how all of that impacts your creativity. And because clutter, it drains, it's draining. And so, the thing, of course, is that what I tell people is that when you have the clutter in your life, it's a representation of something else. That's so right. When what you see is not what's going on, it's usually something that's going on internally, mentally or, emotionally, because it affects those areas of your life. Financially, when things are, out of control financially, like it's not what you're spending. It's more something that's going on in here, and so it's like it's a cycle.
Yes.
And so, and I love what you were saying about, the checklist, checking out this, but not really being fully present of what you just checked off.
Right.
Some
things are memory resistance, and some things are just, no, you really need to know. You really don't remember what you ate, or you really don't remember what you did,
right?
Or how you got here. Yeah. You're looking around like, wow, because we go into autopilot.
Yeah. I remember this used to be this saying. Well, it was more like people would always respond, hey, how's it going? What are you up to? Oh, just busy. Like it was a badge of honor. I don't want any, that is not my response, because busy is not what I want to be.
Right.
So
you want to talk about some of the good things. You want to talk about some things that are going on that are positive. But just like we're robotic about a lot of things that we do.
Yeah.
How are you doing? I'm fine. And you could be feeling horrible. One thing that I've learned to say when somebody says, how are you doing? And I'm not really having the best day, I may say, you know what? I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And that gives me hope in knowing that, yes, things are going to change. You're not going to stay this way.
Right.
And that also, leaves the door open. When I said to my husband, he's like, well, sweetheart, just tell me what I can do to help to make your day better. And I'm like, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But all of these things are things that it's taken time to establish.
Yeah.
These are not things that have magically happened. It has taken me, and I'm sure it takes time to get to this space.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't mean that once you're there, you're not going to have setbacks, because they come.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've had pivots that have come, and that's where it's important that we're creating toolboxes. Yeah. Anyone who knows me knows I'm always talking about toolboxes and how are we prepared for the things that can and will happen.
Yeah.
And they happen repeatedly. We may get over the hump. Okay. Yeah. All right. It rains. So yes, we had the umbrella. There's going to be days when it's going to rain and we didn't expect that rain, and we checked the forecast and we didn't know, or we left that umbrella at home and we're going to get wet.
Right.
But what we learn next time, okay, make sure I put an umbrella in the car. Make sure I have an umbrella at the job. Make sure I have an umbrella in the house. So in case I get stuck.
Right.
Absolutely.
But
we learn. We should be learning, or in a space where we're saying, okay, this happened. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen again. But if it happens the next time, how am I going to be prepared for that?
Yeah.
You know, we keep that spare tire in the car. We keep that gas tank in the car, because it doesn't mean we're never going to run out of gas again, and we're never going to have a flat tire. Mm-hmm. Those things are just static. They become a part of our existence. Yeah. We know to have those things ready. We have a toolbox in the house because we know at some point we're going to need the screwdriver or that hammer or that wrench or that plunger. Mm-hmm. Okay? Absolutely. Those things mentally, you know, when things go wrong, do we have that mental, you know, toolbox ready? Yeah. You know, when things are scattered, like you said, it's beyond, you know, it becomes a mindset thing. Mm-hmm. Because to declutter, we have to be in that mindset, or we have to acknowledge that things are cluttered. Right. And I need to make a change. And that's a mindset shift, because absolutely now you shift your mind so that you can start moving those things and figuring out where those things need to go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because as you know, that is a part of my framework. You know, is the first part of the framework is not just to start decluttering. It's to start thinking about what you want to declutter, thinking about why and how you got here in the first place. You know, because there's so many things that's impacting that. You know, it could be that's what you saw growing up. Yeah. Right. It could be an experience that caused you to hold on to things because you had a lot of losses in your life. Yeah. It could be, like we were talking, you know, early on, you know, different experiences that happened where you had to make a pivot. You know, at one point in your life, you know, maybe you were very organized and now you find yourself not being able to do that. So there could have been a life event that caused this, you know, and so there's so many things that you have to look at. So you always want to assess the situation before you start your decluttering process. And so as you've probably heard me say this, but one of the things that I tell people is I'm a recovering pack rat, right? Yes. And that was because, you know, even though I was organized, I was very organized. I kept a lot of stuff. So I always have to examine, you know, why, you know, what was it that, you know, that impacted my life. And I've had, you know, different experiences that's happened in my life. And it's like, you know what, let me think about, why am I holding on to this? Right. You know, what, you know, how is this gonna, that's one thing. The other thing you got to think about, what is this costing me to hold on to this? It could be costing you financially. It could be costing you emotionally. It could be costing you from a business standpoint, because we were talking about clarity, right? If you don't have a lot of clarity, one of the ladies that went through the decluttering challenge launched her business. Well, there were several people that did. They launched, but this particular one launched her business, and she is not even a year into her business, and she's on her way to six figures because she got clarity. Yes. You know, so it can cost you millions in your ideas. You know, if you don't allow the space to get clear and focused on what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Right. And so, you know, I just love this conversation, and, you know, we can talk about this, you know, forever. Yes. So tell me what's next for How Now Podcast? What's you've written books, you know, you're podcasting. I mean, what's next?
Right. Well, yeah, like I said, what I've done is, you know, due to the weight loss and, you know, the things that I've accomplished there, I recently was certified as a holistic nutritionist, because I wanted to understand, you know, what I was eating and what effect it had on my body. And so it wasn't just enough for me to know, for somebody to just give me a list and say, well, eat this and don't do that and exercise this time. I needed to know what it did to my body internally when I ate. Gosh. and how did this affect me physically. And also, talking to people are, oh, Kim, how'd you lose the weight? And they want to know. And you don't want to just give people a list of things, I did this and that, because some people feel overwhelmed and they're just like, oh, I can't do all of that, what you did. No, how do I start people? How do I help to coach people in being able to do that? So, that's kind of where I'm headed with, doing some of the health and wellness coaching. And I'll have more guests on my podcast, talking about the health aspect and changing some things there. So I've got under the umbrella of my Redefining You, I've got my podcast, and I've got the health and wellness coaching as well. So those are some things that I've got, coming down the pike there, just to help people to, figure out again how to live in this now, and that now in my existence. And what we're seeing now is people are really focusing on their wellness. I'm working on a curriculum that talks about trimming the fat. How do we trim the fat physically, mentally, and emotionally? Just like we feed out and we have a hunger for food, do we have that same hunger for our daily bread, which is the word? How do we feed on that spiritually? Do we have a hunger for that, as the deer pants for the water?
Yes.
All of that.
Oh, my soul.
How are we feeding ourselves? And what are some things that are fat that we need to trim? Yeah. The mindless things that we do that are time absorbers and time wasters. Yeah. How are we doing that? And what can we do to, to create a healthy balance in all of those areas? So that's kind of where I am with that now. So
well, I love it. And so, as fellow podcasters, we're just going to hang out on each other's show. How about that?
All the time. Okay. I'm always down for coming. That's what we do. We talk.
That's what we do. And we just allow people to listen in, right?
That's it. It's like, come on in the room. But you know what? Right. These are wonderful platforms, and we're changing the way we're doing it. It's organic. Yeah. We just come in. It's a conversation. Yeah. I want people to feel like they're just coming in the room and just sitting down in the living room and having a conversation with us. It's not about asking structured questions and things like that. It's about the flow. Yeah. Because when we become too, tethered to, oh, well, I'm going to answer this question, then we miss out on saying something that somebody may have needed to hear. Yeah. Just because we were so confined to what it was that we were going to say and how we were going to say it. Yeah. When it just flows, it comes naturally, and somebody's going to get a takeaway from it. And like you said, the door is always open. I always say my door is open, and I don't put my foot on the door and tell you that the door is open. I take my foot off the door, and if I say the door is open, it's open.
Oh my goodness, I just love it. Well, listen, so all of your contact information will be in the show notes. And so, but is there a specific way you want people to reach you?
Well, they can go to my website. They can go to www.hownowpodcast.com if they're interested in the podcast. But if they want an overall for all things that doing it, they can go to www.redefindingyou. So that's REDEFINDINGU. That's redefindingyou.com, and that way they can come on there. There's a link for the podcast. There's a link for the ministry that I'm a part of, where we go and help people in Haiti, and that's the Tone Foundation. So I've got a couple of little coals in the fire, and you can go there and pretty much click on any aspect of my business and get in contact with me. I look forward to that.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I so appreciate you taking the time to come and talk with me. Yeah, and we, like I said, we could go on and on, but we're going to save that for another conversation. And
I'll be back.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be back.
That's something to wear, I think, somewhere in there now.
Right. I have really enjoyed this as always. And so for those that are listening to the podcast, as I said, all of the information will be in the show notes. And you can reach out to Kim, How Now Podcast and Redefine You.
Redefining you. Yes.
Redefining you.
Yes.
And definitely reach out to her if you're interested in getting organized in your business and in your life and launching your business. Then you can definitely reach out to me at the Organizedpreneur Podcast or organizedpreneur.com, and I will help you in that area. So start by listening and subscribing to the podcast. Simply go to organizedpreneurpodcast.com. And also check out the freebies available, including a free training at theorganizedpreneur.com. So you ready? Let's go.